Okay, picture this. It's the morning of November 14th, right in the year 725 AD. You've got an 8th century Norse crew who have just sailed their massive longship, the Jormungandr, across some truly unforgiving oceans. And now, they are peacefully moored right at the base of the massive cliffs of Tulum. They've literally traded the freezing, rolling waves of the north for these completely vibrant turquoise waters of the Caribbean. Now their local guide, Kooballu, has just offered them an incredible gift from the local ruler, which is one final day to witness an absolute wonder before they head inland.
So that brings us to the big question for today's explainer. What exactly happens when these legendary seafarers from the icy north, people whose entire way of viewing the world is built around open skies, huge mountains, and crashing seas, what happens when they uncover a hidden, subterranean secret buried deep in the sweltering Mayan jungle? How do they even process it? How does it actually change them?
Let's dive right into our timeline for this day of discovery. It's a pretty epic hero's journey, honestly. In the morning, they are sailing from Cozumel to Tulum. Midday, they're trekking through dense, humid jungle. By the afternoon, they're plunging into sapphire waters, and finally, they wrap up the evening with tales by the campfire.
To really grasp what this discovery meant to them, we have to talk about the absolute shock of the environmental shift. Think about it. These Norsemen are sailors, right? The open sea is their ultimate comfort zone. The morning brings that familiar rhythm of the hull on the open ocean, the turquoise waters, the cool breezes. But the second they follow Kooballu inland, boom, the world just completely closes in on them. They go from these massive, wide-open horizons to a totally alien, claustrophobic jungle canopy. The air suddenly gets incredibly dense, thick with humidity, and smells like heavy, damped earth. Instead of dodging waves, they're suddenly tripping over giant snaking roots. It is pure, absolute sensory overload.
Actually, one of the crew members, Bjorn, pretty much sums up their initial frustration perfectly. He's swatting at these swarming flies, totally out of his element, and just grumbles, "This jungle, it tries to swallow you whole. Give me the open sea any day." You can just hear the quintessential grumpy Viking coming out there. He hates the bugs, he hates the heavy air, and he really hates feeling trapped.
But, not everyone is complaining. Christina actually offers this totally different, super refreshing perspective. Right as Bjorn is complaining, she points out a brilliant blue butterfly, we're talking wings the size of her hand, and says, "But look, Bjorn, such beauty hidden in its depths. And the air, it feels alive." She gets it. She realizes that despite the oppressive heat, they are walking through an ecosystem that is literally bursting with life. And right after she says that, the dense jungle suddenly starts to thin out.
A cool breeze suddenly hits them. The trees part, and there it is. Kooballu calls it Oox Ha, which translates to the twin eyes of the earth. And the craziest part? This isn't some built temple. It is a massive, circular sinkhole. It's a literal opening in the earth itself, framed by lush vegetation, with a pool of sapphire blue water at the bottom that is so impossibly transparent it defies belief. And right beside it is another nearly identical opening, connected by a natural rock bridge. They literally look like two giant eyes staring right back up at the sky.
Honestly, the Norsemen are just stunned. They are completely silent. This is so far outside their understanding of the world, it's a profound spiritual shock, which Uberek captures beautifully when he whispers, "By the ancestors." It's as if the earth has opened its very soul. For folks who usually look for the divine up in the mountains or out on the raging sea, staring down into this perfectly still window into the underground, well, it feels like looking straight into the realm of the gods.
But then, of course, leave it to Sven Loki to break the spell with a completely practical question. He just looks down and asks, "The water, it is so clear and so still. Is it deep?" And that simple question lets Kooballu drop an even bigger bombshell. It's not just a deep pool. This water is actually flowing. It connects to an entire network of hidden, subterranean rivers, totally cut off from the sun. These twin eyes, they're just windows into a gigantic world hidden beneath their feet.
As they're looking down, they spot these crazy formations hanging from the ceilings of the cavern. Now, Uberik, being the mythological guy he is, thinks they look like a giant's beard. But Sven Loki brings it right back down to earth, explaining the sheer geological reality. These are stalactites. They're basically stone icicles formed at an agonizingly slow pace by water dripping over countless ages. And the way the sunlight pierces down through the jungle and bounces off them, it just creates this unbelievable play of light and shadow.
While Sven Loki is geeking out over the rocks, Ranveig is drawn to the shadow depths for a totally different reason. She's clutching her lodestar fragment, and she instantly senses something deeply mystical about the space. She whispers, "This is a place of passage. The spirits of the deep earth dwell here." Kooballu had mentioned this was a place where the veil between worlds is thin, and Randveig literally feels that. To her, this cenote isn't just a geological feature, it is a doorway.
All right, eventually you just can't resist water like that, right? The overwhelming heat of the jungle trek has caught up to them, and it's time for the immersion. One by one, they shed their heavy tunics and dive right into the cenote. And man, the physical relief must have been incredible. The water is this shocking, invigorating, completely pure embrace. They leave the noisy, sweaty jungle behind and just sink into ancient silence.
And remember Bjorn, the guy who was ready to trade the entire jungle for the sea just a few hours ago? Total 180. He is absolutely loving it. He's splashing around like a kid, roaring. It's like swimming in liquid air. I can see my toes, even in the deep parts. That ridiculous clarity of the water just completely washes away his bad mood. It is such a beautifully human moment of pure joy.
And this really shows you how deeply they connected with this place. Connell, who's basically as agile as a fish, dives way down into the water to explore the rock formations and the tiny darting fish down there. He pops back up, totally out of breath but grinning, and says, "The world beneath is as beautiful as the world above." For sailors, the surface of the water was almost always a boundary, right? But here, it was a complete invitation. Fast forward to that evening. After a hearty dinner of roasted fish and maize, they gather around the campfire back at the harbor. And this is the part I find absolutely fascinating. They all start processing this alien beauty, but through their own specific cultural lenses. Sven Loki is still marveling at the sheer geological patience of the dripping stone. Connell relates it to the ancient, powerful Celtic wells back in his homeland. Randveig holds firm that it's a literal doorway between the living and the unseen. And their chieftain, Ragnar, he just really appreciates the poetry of a land that hides its most breathtaking wonders safely beneath the surface, unlike the obvious towering mountains back in Norway.
So, as the fire dies down and the stars come out over the Jormungand, I want to leave you with this thought. As they went to sleep dreaming of those shimmering blue waters and the ancient eyes of the earth, how did that one singular encounter forever alter how they saw the boundaries of the world? I mean, once you realize the earth is hiding entire flowing rivers beneath solid stone, the whole world just gets infinitely bigger, doesn't it? It's a great reminder of our universal human instinct to seek out meaning in the wildest wonders of nature. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope it gets you excited to find the hidden wonders in your own backyard.